me.
Second. Oh, okay. Phew. Okay. Director Kintosh,
Here.
Director Berg,
Here.
Director Quillisi,
Here.
and then we have Vice Chair Ulrich,
Here.
and he will be acting chairman. We have Director Stone absent, Director Martinson absent. Those were notified absence. Director Curtis may chime in eventually and request AB 2449, but at this time we are marking him as absent as well.
But having said that, we have sufficient quorum,
That is correct.
attendance for a quorum. So let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Rosie? Sure.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill, do you want a printed copy? There's an extra printed copy up there.
I just love it.
Top, the one with the blue cover.
All righty. Right, so having said that, do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda?
We do not.
And this is, before we get to any public concerns, I'd like to acknowledge that this is the first meeting that our interim general managers attending, and welcome. Thank you. And at this point, are there any public concerns?
No
Items
public.
not on the agenda?
No public,
Nothing received in advance.
written, nothing electronic.
All right. In that case, then we'll move to consent items. Items 6 through 8. Do I have?
I would like to make a motion, but first I'd like to, with poll item 7, I have a very simple question that probably has a very simple answer, or it may lead to a follow-up question. So I'd like to separate item 7 out for discussion. And I'd like to make a motion to approve consent items 6 and 8.
And I just want to note that on item 6, I'll be adding that Scott was in attendance at that September. Oh, sorry, that's not on this item. It's on one of the received and filed. When we get there.
Yeah, I'll second the motion for 6 and 8.
Director Kintosh,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Ulrich.
Okay, item 7, should I talk about item 7 now?
Yes, indeed, please.
Mr. Chair. Okay, item 7 is one of our customers is proposing to build a ADU on his property. And the ADU is also designated as a tiny home. I think the county of Ventura defines a tiny home as being 500 square feet or less. And and we've had a number of these come through. What puzzles me is if we have a tiny home, they're going to pay a capacity charge of $16,000. Now, the $16,000 is usually applies to 4-bedroom homes or first-time homes or whatever. So my question is, why is this customer paying $16,000 for a tiny home capacity charge? I'm sure there's a logical explanation.
They're not paying 16,000. They're paying a proportional cost based on fixture unit counts. That is in accordance with OVSD 82. So they are paying proportional. The city of Ojai has an ordinance in which they consider a tiny home an accessory dwelling unit. A tiny home is not a conversion of an existing space. It is considered new construction. Just because it is mobile and movable does not mitigate it from being classified as an ADU under their ordinance, and therefore it is being charged proportionally in accordance with OVSD ordinance 82.
Well, I just got confused because on page 25 of 129, it says purchase of one capacity unit, and it adds up to $16,000. This is a bit of the agreement. So the agreement seems to say 16,000. Now on the next page,
Exhibit B.
Yes.
25, exhibit B, yes.
So
It
you're-
says $16,000. And the next page, it says amortization schedule, total capacity charge, $16,000. So that's why I got confused.
You're correct. I will look into that. my understanding is this one was proportional in accordance with OVSD 82, so the exhibits may be incorrect. I will say that this particular agreement has had to be redone 4 times because of other signatory issues. So it is very likely this is the 3rd rendition, and likely the exhibits have been swapped out incorrectly. This is a accumulation of multiple copies we've received over time.
So it seems that the customer is working through their attorney. Has the attorney signed the,
Yeah, it's a long story. There are multiple parties involved with multiple different authorities to conduct business on behalf of this particular entity.
know if they're in a huge hurry, because they wait another month?
Oh, yeah, they're fine. We can actually switch out the exhibits on here. It's completely fine. As it is. So that's fine. You can adopt this because all you're doing is essentially granting the authority for them to finance the capacity charges. If somebody brought in a revised set of plans after you approved their agreement and prior to its recordation, we can adjust any of those exhibits to charge them correctly. Doesn't change the motion that you're making. But
So
we can start-
approving item 7 does not approve
So
a
you.
charge of $16,000
It
to this.
just authorizes them to finance the appropriate capacity charges. And so we can essentially make this, I can note on here that we will double check that those exhibits are correct based on the application that was submitted. They don't look correct to me, but I will have to double check and make
ADUs
sure
are
that,
typically about half.
yeah, this one would likely be half. But like I said, circumstances may have changed and this may be correct. But if I remember the first time this went through our office about a year ago, it was proportional.
Is there any disadvantage to waiting another month? They have a big, huge hurry.
There's not, we can certainly bring it back.
That would be my recommendation, just have a nitpicker.
The motion,
Agreements, once it's in the agenda packet, it's kind of the basis for our vote rather than some other number that's to be pulled out of a hat later. So if you're okay with it, I would propose that we.
I'll second that. That was a motion.
Okay, that was a motion, an accidental motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a
continue
second.
item 7. for the next
Continue
meeting.
item 7 to the next meeting. Roll call.
Director Kintosh,
Yes.
Director Byrd,
Yes.
and Director Quillisi.
Yes. Vice Chair.
Sorry for being persnickety.
No,
Vice Chair Orr.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Okay, right. In that case, then we'll move to action items. Item number 9, resolution number 24-21, nomination for regular member, LAFCO Independent Special District Member.
So I'll start this off. I don't want to be on.
my recollection from the last meeting was that Vice Chair Ulrich had volunteered to do it.
Remind me later why I came to this meeting.
So you could decline.
No, I'll do that. Yes.
Well, I'll move then that we pass this resolution naming Vice Chair Ulrich as the LAFCO representative from the district.
Second,
Okay, Allison?
Director Kintosh,
yes.
Director Byrd,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ulrich.
Regrettably, yes.
Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you. I'm speaking the soft underbelly of the county governance.
It doesn't
One
actually
board
mean
at a
that
time.
it doesn't mean that you're actually going to have to
I know.
go to any
I
meeting.
know, but my luck.
You may not get voted in.
Yes, isn't that nice? I'll cherish that notion. Okay. Item number 10, November and December board meetings. Consider the calendar.
Fourth Monday is always the Monday in November, is always the Monday of Thanksgiving.
And not-
It is the Monday of Thanksgiving week at this point also, and there is maybe perhaps a suggestion to look at it, to place it on the, it says 16th, but I think it meant to say 18th of November.
I don't have a problem with that.
So
Consideration.
I'm okay leaving it where it is or moving it before or after. So I'm okay with whatever you guys come up with.
Same here.
I could do either the 18th or the Monday after Thanksgiving.
What would staff prefer?
Or is that December?
That's December.
That is December. Okay.
None of us care. What would staff prefer?
I mean, it's always nice to stay on the regular schedule if you are available. I mean, regular schedule is
As far as
fine.
I know, I'm gonna be here.
Dan, stay.
Keep it.
November. It's the 25th. Okay, and then, December.
Yeah, December has to move. Want to do it Monday before Christmas Eve. I'm good either. I would prefer the 16th myself, just because get away from that New Year's Eve weekend.
I'm good for the 16th.
And two, as am I.
Okay. 4 votes for the 16th.
Okay, we need to do a roll call, or did we effectively do one?
Do we need?
Yeah, I would do a roll call.
Right, so, do we want to do, we need a formal motion.
I'll make a motion then that we change the regular meeting December to the 16th. We leave the November meeting as normally scheduled.
I'll second them.
Please?
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ulrich.
Yes. Okay, item number 11, root control, contract number 2025-03, budget adjustment number 2025-10, Duke's Root Control, Inc. Approve and authorize the chairman to sign contract number 2025-3 between Ojai Valley Sanitary District and Duke's Root Control in the amount not to exceed $43,017.92, and B, adopt budget adjustment number 2025-10, transferring $43,018 from the collection system replacement reserve to major expenditures. Collection system to fund the contract work. Gentlemen? Any discussion?
Do we have a report from staff first?
Sure. So what Boots does is they inject a diquat dibromide is the chemical. It's a foaming agent. They inject it into the line. It foams up. It reacts with the roots that may be coming in through cracks in the line. It dries out over the course of time. It'll dry out the roots. The roots will get brittle. They break off and they just meander down through normal flow. That's how it works. Some limitations that we have is we only work in 6,000 linear foot increments on a daily basis, because if you were to do more than about 6,000 feet, there's a possibility it could adversely affect the treatment plant, the bottom end. David, down at the laboratory, he will do a baseline monitoring before we start, and he will do monitoring during it to ensure that we don't have too much of the diquat dibromide go down the line. This year, it's predominantly 6-inch line. There's a little small section of 8-inch line, and they being Dukes has given us a good guy discount where they just quoted the 6-inch price for the 8-inch section. So
I remember from last year that we used this company for some time.
we have. I think we've been using them since 2002.
They're the only ones certified.
They're the only ones that are readily available and licensed in the valley.
Mr. Quilisi.
I had some questions which Misha suggested that we put on the record. I looked at the discussion of the roots shriveling, eventually becoming brittle and breaking off. I'm just wondering, do they dissolve once they've become brittle and broken off?
Yeah, I can
You screen them out at the
I
headwaters.
can speak to that. We've never seen any evidence of any roots at the plant of a small nature. We've had some bigger roots come down during extreme high flow periods, but normally speaking, in conjunction with the root.
Things that weren't treated.
Yeah, they pretty much just shrink up and break off into pieces and they get broken down further as they go down to the plant. So we've never
Okay,
seen it.
is this diquat, dibromide something that we are required to take out or it becomes effluent?
Well, I could speak to the diquat a little bit. Receiving water maximum contaminant level is 20 UGLs. UGL is micrograms per liter. Just to give you an idea of what that means, it's 0.00001 grams per 1,000 milliliters of water. We see the diquat come into the plant, and just by nature of the biology at the plant and the type of processes we have, we do reduce the diquat. We've seen levels in the effluent as high as 11, and then further sample downstream in the river. On that day that we had 11 back in 2021, we reduced that, or it went down to a 2.3 in the river. So we're well below the 20 UGL. We've never seen any numbers that even got close.
20 is the legal limit, you mean?
Right. Yeah, we're well below the 20 UGL legal limit.
Okay, so even because we're limiting how much we do each day,
Right.
we're even keeping the influent below the legal limit, much less the effluent.
Right. Well, there was one time, and I see a 260 at the plant influent in 2021. That one seems like a bit of an anomaly. However, that could be true if we were doing root control real close to the plant, and I don't have that information in front of me. But normally we'll see 8.6. We did see 150, 130, but it gets reduced very significantly in the plant down to a 5, down to a 1.6,
Okay.
and then subsequently
So we're actually getting rid of it, but we're not killing the bugs at the same time.
right.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't seen any adverse effects with the biology at the plant. So it works out pretty good for us, and very cautious. The 6,000 feet a day is kind of where we like to stay, just because we've seen the numbers, and we want to be very conservative in how much root control we apply.
That affects the price then, because Dukes has to spread out the time that they spend homing.
Right.
Extra days.
Right.
It's
See
safer.
with the video log, you see roots coming down, and then a few months after the treatment, you see the roots gone.
Pretty much, yeah. I have seen a video like that a few years ago. They just kind of shrivel back. We catch them when they're pretty young, and they just kind of shrivel back. You have huge roots coming into the system. You have other problems, but the areas that we're catching, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're small in nature.
Yeah,
They're just getting started. They're coming in. They're kind of hair-like and maybe a little bigger, and they just, yeah.
The more frequently you foam, the smaller the roots are going to be.
Advantageous to keep up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to move for approval of 11A and B.
I'll second that.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Ulrich.
I'm sorry, I did just a general question, informational question. Is that for the entire system, or is that only for parts of the system that have joints that have roots?
Well, it's just identified lines where we've seen root growth.
Okay. And are those lines are made out of what?
Yeah, pretty much clay, because clay has joints every
Yeah,
so
that's-
often. That's where the roots typically.
Well, it's every so often, it's like every 4 feet.
Yeah.
That is every so often. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every so very often.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that. Okay, item number 12, replacement of combination gapbacks truck, budget adjustment number 2025-11, the amount of $723,526. I'm not going to read all of that. We'll leave it.
Yeah, so we have a 2014 GAPVAX truck. It was purchased for 380 grand in 2014. It's has equivalent to about 300,000 miles on it. The actual odometer only reads around 30,000 miles, but the way it gets used is we pull it up to a manhole. The engine is the engine that runs a PTO, which then drives the whole vacuum. So we've looked at this. It's needed some maintenance, and it's at this point it's exceeded its useful life. When it was originally purchased, it had a 5-year life. And I think they had a 5-year book life, and it was estimated to last 8 years. So it's seen its useful life. Last time we had a meeting, the board directed us to go and take a look at it and also look at our ability to sell it out of the state, right? So one of the issues that's going to come up is it's a diesel truck. At some point, it's going to sunset and not be legal to sell. Staff, we looked at discharging it, or not discharging it, but disposing it out of the state. And we saw that there's somewhere between $25,000 and $180,000 is either the listing price or the selling price. It's really tough to see. If we go to the governmentdeals.com, it looks like it's more in the 25 to 45,000 range. And if you were to go to some of the online retailers, they list it for 180. I have no idea what they're selling them for. I didn't make anyone an offer. We have Plumbers Depot, and Plumbers Depot is the preferred vendor. Plumbers Depot is the vendor that prepared the last SCAP truck for us. It also is the preferred vendor in that it has the 27-inch positive displacement pump that we like. And we've had good use with it, good luck with Plumbers Depot. They will offer a $50,000 trade-in for us. And that $50,000 trade-in just allows us to drive our truck down to Plumbers Depot, and we just do a swap, or they'd bring it up here and swap it out. So it's a fairly easy swap out. If we were to get this truck, it's the board directed us to look at it, replacing it as quickly as we can. In 4 months, we could get a truck, and it would be the 2024 Mack chassis, and that's what they were offering. So the price that you see, the 723, 526, is the price for the equipment that's mounted on the chassis itself, and the $50,000 trade-in value.
Okay.
I am absolutely shocked. I'm still shocked. We're going to pay $700,000 for a truck. On the other hand, when there's an emergency, we want to get to our equipment. We need to turn it on and keep it working reliably. So I'm reluctantly in favor of it. One of the things that's really driving the timing, I think, is I was nervous when I saw that we wait till January 1st. We have to get a natural gas truck. Where do you even fill truck's gas tank with natural gas?
Currently not in Ojai Valley. I don't know where, but there are no fill ports in the valley. So you'd be headed down to, I presume, either Ventura or Oxnard, but I don't know.
We have to get a special tank of our own at our plant to fill up with natural gas.
Could be an option.
Let's not go that way.
CNG fueling stations are few and far between. I have a friend who lives in Rancho Cucamonga, works in El Segundo. There happened to be one in each of those places. So he was able to commute back and forth with his little natural gas powered Honda. But most places, you have to go way out of your way to refuel something that runs on compressed natural gas, CNG. So I think it would be a foolish thing to wait, buy something that we need to refuel that way.
Yeah, I'll go on record. I'd like to recommend that we go with item 12A through D.
I'll second that. Oh, I do have a question, as if we're in discussion now.
Sure.
When you said we have 4 months to get one, or that's roughly to be, but can we get the truck if we order it tomorrow? Is there one that's going to be available?
If we order it tomorrow, we will fall within the limitation not meeting. We won't have to meet the CNG if we order it tomorrow.
Right.
Yes. It's about 4 months out is what I'm hearing is the delivery date for that.
Okay, but there is something we could get in that time frame.
I think we just have to have a letter of intention to purchase and replace it before January 1st. Yeah. You don't have to actually have taken delivery
don't
of the
take possession.
vehicle.
Okay, so the current GAPVAX truck is still working well enough that we're not worried about a 4 month delay to get it.
Yes, I think if it's not abused, I think it would work.
Yes, the GAVX still has life in it. So the options that we have right now, Farmers Depot does have a truck ready to go within 4 months, but if we decided to go with the letter of intent, get another truck within 12 to 18. It's just what route you want to go. You want to get the truck in 4 months or 12 to 18 months.
Sounds good.
But they do have a truck that's currently being built, ready to go.
Paying twice as much as, yes, current equivalent cost 10 years ago is not shocking in this day and age. Sadly.
Everything double.
The same price would cover 4 months versus 12 months, right?
The same price would cover, yes, you will get yes.
I'm
same-
content to leave it to staff to decide whether or not we need it in 4 months or 12 months. We'll approve it today, and in my view, it's up to them.
Approve the purchase, then work it out.
Let them work it out.
I mean, the budgetary consideration is based on taking delivery of it this fiscal year anticipated. So it's not, can't be quite that open-ended because the budget consideration you're making is accounted for this current budget year.
And there is the other consideration that whenever you leave things to other things transpire. So.
Now,
no,
That
let's-
was
sooner is better than
Yeah,
later.
Grab, we're about to execute here, so let's grab it up as.
I withdraw my suggestion.
And if for whatever reason, the truck that's going to be available within 4 months becomes unavailable and the time frame gets extended, we'll communicate with that with the board. It may have a different budgetary consideration.
As well as significant levels of chagrin and dismay. Okay, so at this point,
I have a motion and a second, so I'm ready to take roll if you're ready. Okay. Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Ulrich.
item 13, consideration of competitive market increase to current salary schedule to aid recruitment retention efforts, resolution number 2024-22.
So the Personnel Committee has met on September 3rd and September 16th. And the discussions in the Personnel Committee revolved around having a significant number of applicants for 3 positions that we've been trying to recruit for. That's the administrative technician or administrative or engineering technician 1, the collection system operator 1, 2, 3, or 4, and the senior treatment plant operator 4. Conversations that staff has had, we've looked out in industry and well, let me zoom back a little bit. What we realized was we only had minimum applications of 3 in the considerations for administrative technicians, 3 for the collection system operator, and only 2 for the senior plant operator 4. Historically, we've had 12 to 25 applicants meeting minimum requirements. So staff has reached out, and what we've realized is that here in the Valley, we have a geographically isolated area, which has really limited the number of people that can either live here or can get here. We have a high cost of living. Ojai Valley Sanitation District has a somewhat less flexible work schedule than other districts. And we're having competing pay, benefits, and diminishing labor pool for this type of work. The committee looked at it, and the committee has came to a consideration that they would like to see, for consideration by the whole board, a 20% raise across the board for all salary schedules, not including the interim general manager and the general manager. So it'd be for all staff, not including the general manager and interim general manager. It would have a budgetary significance of the rest of this year of around $317,000. It's a ballpark. We can't necessarily predict who's going to be on, who's not going to be on. And we're estimating that it would have a budget impact for next year of around $525,000. So.
Do we have any of the personnel committee here today?
This is Bill Stone.
Bill and Jim and myself.
20%, that's a big number.
That is a big number.
Understand the gravity of it. It's a huge step. And we talked at length in the meetings about different options, like some kind of giving people a housing allowance. We talked about hiring interns and training them. We talked about,
Which we don't have the bandwidth for, frankly.
we looked at a whole bunch of options, and giving everybody a raise seems like a huge step, and it is a huge step. We recognize that, but I support it only because I have no idea what else we can do. We need to hire good people. And one of the things I was reluctant about was if we give people more salary across the board, we don't want to just pay salary. We got to pay that for 50 years because there are retirement increases as well. So is there some way we can up the salary to take care of housing costs and reduce, the retirement benefits, so they get the same retirement benefits they're getting now, but we put more money on the front end when they need it to pay for higher housing costs. And the housing allowance idea kind of fizzled out. So we went through a number of iterations looking for ideas, and we're willing to consider more ideas. And one of the things I was particularly interested in is I wanted to hear Lowell's views. Director Martinson always has very strong opinions about finances and trying to keep costs down. Within advertising, I gave Lowell a call today, just left a message with him just to let him know that this was on the agenda to make sure he didn't miss it. I knew he was going to be interested in it. So we built a little bit of action because Bill's not here today and he wanted to be here when we pass it or vote on it. We're giving ourselves a couple months to be able to debate it amongst ourselves and really decide what we want to do. But it's a huge, drastic step, but other agencies are doing it, and I'm at a loss right now. So I'd like to hear from you guys.
Was the committee in,
2/3 of the personnel committee is here.
The committee was 100% for it. Stephen,
The thought processes that we went through included some of the following. Giving people a bullet loan to help them buy a house is really unequal treatment of employees. We have to have people available meet the call out times, which means they have to live somewhere nearby. We found from staff's reports that of the comparable districts, any or most of them have in the last year or two increased their salary scales 15 to 20%, just because they have the same problem we have of not enough applicants when you have a vacancy.
how was the 20% number arrived at?
We considered 15% and 20% as at least one set of alternatives, and found that at least some of the comparable districts have gone 20%. We have, I think, typically incomparable salary wise to most of the districts in the area,
No longer are.
but we no longer are. And the other factors are still things that we need to consider. Other districts are working 980 schedule, that is 4.5 days a week, or 5 days one week and 4 the next. And some are working 410s every week. It gives Bradshaw more heartache because he's got to keep shuffling people to cover another 3 shifts or whatever on one day a week or 1 day every other week. But I can tell you from having worked 980 schedule for 8 years at one of my many stops along the way, that that was a true benefit. You actually had every second week, at least, had a day off when everybody else was working, so you could get things done. You could deal with the government, and the government's always closed on weekends. You can't be sitting around in the office dealing with the government on your time. So those are other things that we need to do as well, but those are things that competing districts are already doing, in addition to increasing salary scales.
I would say that the shortage and the difficulty in hiring qualified employees is real. So as the respect the views of all of the gentlemen on the personnel committee, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this item number 13, 20%.
Actually, we were anticipating, sorry.
There's a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it if Mr. Kentosh does not.
Well, before we go there, I just had the question of, is this a consideration of competitive market increase? What is the motion for?
I'm making a motion that we approve the recommendation of the personnel committee. We increase the wages as
Salary scale.
defined here of 20%.
Is there an effective date for this, by the way?
So the motion would be, if you choose to vote and adopt this evening, which the staff report is written to where you can choose to make an alternate motion, adopt the existing one, or choose to continue the discussion, hence why the motions are not super clear. So your motion would be, if you want to adopt it, would be to adopt the recommendation of increasing the salary schedule by 20%. For all salaries on the schedule, with the exception of the interim general manager and the general manager, whose salaries are negotiated by contract. And then you would subsequently also make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2024-22, which would formalize that.
With an effective date of,
An effective date is on the policy. I think it's September 29th. That just happens to be a date that aligns with a payroll period, so.
That's my motion. Thank you for helping.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I thought, whatever reason, during the course of this discussion, that there was some interest in having Mr. Stone present for the vote.
Well, he was in favor of the recommendation. It was a unanimous recommendation of the three members of the committee. And he said he was interested, but he is somewhere on the I-5 right now, unavailable to attend. Not think, well, he would have preferred to be here. He did not want to hold up the consideration of this because we're losing recruiting time. If we waited another month, would be another month before we could go out and recruit with a new salary scale.
At this point, we also don't have the input of Mr. Martinson. So,
Or Mr. Curtis, yeah.
I'm reluctant to vote on it today. I had kind of in mind that we would give folks out there in TV land a little chance to absorb. It's a huge momentous decision. 20% across the board for everybody. Now, I'd like to hear what Lowell has to say about it, because he usually has some concerns about it. And what Jack has to say. And of course, Bill's in favor of it, but my inclination is to wait another month. I know that's a delay, but I think it would give us a little more time. We talked about, I think, if the press was at all interested in the topic. Did you guys ever talk any topic of interest to them?
I did not reach out to the press, but I am happy to reach out to the press. I think the direction that I got was for the board to consider it if it would be something that they would want the general manager to take a look at.
Okay, I have a question, I guess, for the district council. We have a quorum. What does it take with this quorum of 4 to pass a resolution? Majority of those attending, or does it still take 4 votes?
It's 4 votes. It's 4 of 7, so it'd have to be a full yes.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the attorney.
As long as you've got a quorum, that the majority. Oh,
The quorum?
The majority vote of the
could be
quorum.
wrong.
I
I don't know.
I believe so.
I'm not really sure.
And in the event that there's a split 2-2,
The motion does not pass.
We should probably take the vote.
You guys have.
Should also have the option to table it for next month. So you know that.
The 2-2 vote does that anyway.
effectively.
You guys have put me in a real pickle because when it gets voted on for real, I want to vote for it. So, on the other, if I vote no, it's only because I want to give it another month to sink in and gel with everybody. Make sure everybody understands what we're proposing, why we're proposing, and give them a chance to ask questions, give them a chance to make comments and everything else. This is a huge momentous decision. Makes buying a GAP truck or a GAX truck look like a piece of cake.
Yeah, but we've been suffering this lack of employment responsiveness for a long time. So we can just keep putting it off, Steve said. We can just tackle it tonight. We have a motion and a second.
Yep.
I know what we should be doing right now. Vote.
Calling the question.
You guys are gonna force me, dang it.
No?
Go ahead, Allison.
You're gonna be the first one to ask. Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Berg,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Ulrich.
It is.
I hope staff out there appreciates this.
Thank you. Thank you.
We get some bodies with this.
Should be helpful
Yeah,
for so then.
friends and the
It's-
business.
No, exactly.
You don't have to call no one. They're gonna come to us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in part a competitive move. Also, I think in part to say to current staff, appreciate how you have been performing so shorthanded as you have.
We'd like you to keep doing it.
And we want you to keep doing that, but it'll be a little less painful at the grocery store.
Very much. Okay, right, item 14, Rancho Matilla trunk sewer driveway access asphalt repair.
Yes, so there's an address 2110 Burnham Road, and 2110 Burnham Road there's a driveway. We, as a district, use this driveway to get down to our trunk sewer. It allows us access to 5 manholes and around 1,600 feet of driveway.
This is the south end of the siphon.
It would, yes, it's in that general location, but the siphon bypasses this. This would have been the old trunk line before the siphon was built, coming out of.
This is the Rancho Matilla
Rancho
line.
Matilla, yeah, so it's the old,
The siphon.
yeah, so it's upstream of the confluence of the siphon.
Okay.
So it's this section where we have the oversized 18 that we would probably slip line with a smaller HDPE line. It's that section in there. The owner of the property has provided a access easement to the district, and it was at 0 fee. I think it was around 2001. We do have that easement. There's no maintenance required in that easement. But the owner has been super gracious in that he trims the trees, that gives us access to it. At one point, he had an archway, so he removed the archway so that our trucks could get underneath the archway. He widened it out because there was some posts there where the archway was. In any event, I've actually gone down and looked at it with Israel. And there is about 1,200 feet or so, I think the staff letter has it exactly, of asphalt it's tore up. Our equipment, certainly adds a traffic impact to a driveway. We have decent sized equipment drive down it. But the section that's tore up is also underneath some trees, and I think that the trees probably play a role in it also. The section of driveway that we do use, I did confirm it is around 11,500 square feet in total, and I have a takeoff that I took from our GIS system. I'm happy to pass around. Can we pass this around or no, Misha? Yeah.
I'll just have to copy it for an exhibit.
We'll copy it for an exhibit. There's a takeoff that has the total square footage.
Oh, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, so it loops around there and there's a turnaround down at the bottom of that. So
By that today again,
and so
you can't see much from the road.
you cannot, and it goes down, drops down a hill down in there. And so the owner, he approached us. I think his original ask was 2/3. I went and took a look at it. I spoke with him and I thought of perhaps a 50-50 as far as arrangement would be more appropriate. The 50-50, if that's what the board would consider, that would bring it into a dollar amount where I, as the interim general manager, can sign off on it. If it's not a 50-50, then it would be for the board's consideration if the price gets over 15,000. So for your consideration is does the board concur that this is about a 50-50 split, at which point we would go and he would still pay for the work and we would reimburse him for about half of it.
Is the parcel owner amenable to a 50-50 split?
Yes.
I want to weigh in on this, because I've been on the board of Miners Oaks Water District for 12 years. We had a neighbor, we have a tank farm off Highway 33. We had a neighbor on whose property we have an easement to access our tank farm. And who knows why, but we ended up in a lawsuit with that individual. And the headaches were just unbelievable. Board meetings that go till 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night, trying to decide what to do. So if we have a neighbor who wants to work cooperatively with us and allow us to use their property, do we even have an easement?
We have an easement, yes. We have an
easement if they're.
We have two easements. We have an easement for the pipeline, and we also have an easement that allows us to drive down his driveway to get down to it.
Well, even so, if we're on good terms with them, we should stay on good terms with them. I'm perfectly accept the idea that we're the ones with the big heavy equipment that's tearing that road up. So if it was 80-20, I'd be okay with that, or even 100% of it. That's just me, but let's maintain ourselves on good terms with that landowner. I just want to tell you, lawsuits, you do not want to get into them. Is that right, Misha?
You're absolutely right.
Making a motion.
I want to hear from the board. Would you guys, which was it again? 11,000, but 50-50?
11,275.
We go 2/3, 1/3?
It's double that. That is the 50%.
50%, yeah, so the total construction price is 22,000. The 50-50 split would be 11,275 for the district.
I would consider there's 1/3, 3/4, 1/4. How generous you guys feel?
I think if the property owner is willing to go 50-50, and seems to be
Yes.
happy with that, why,
So
why give somebody something more than they've asked for?
it's true. They're happy with 50-50. Well, in that case, I'll make a motion. We show me the trunks over there. There's no
About item 13,
Item
14.
I'm gonna make a motion to authorize staff to negotiate a split on the cost of the asphalt driveway repair.
I'll second that.
Director Kintosh,
Yes.
Director Burke,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Ulrich.
Yes. Okay. Brings us to information items.
That was a good point, Steve. I appreciate that.
Okay, for receipt and file.
Just have one correction to the minutes of the Personnel Committee for September 3rd. I'll be adding Scott's attendance to that. I failed to mention that he was in attendance. That was his first birthday here.
Right. When he came in and he said yes and he swore at us or something.
I think that was actually his first official day here.
Yeah, that's- Right, so, on 15, item 15, 16, 17, or 18, and on item 19,
Which is,
reports on meetings, seminars, or conferences attended. Okay, and 20, items of interest in correspondence, items of interest / correspondence or / article. Anyone? I do. Two articles in the New York Times I saw just this morning. That related to two organic farms in, I believe it was New Hampshire, that were shut down by the state because it was a cattle operation where they grew their grass, fed their cattle, did their slaughtering, everything. Very, very purposeful organic operation. And then an adjacent operation, which was related to chickens, eggs, etc., who had family members that were related to the cattle operation
Oh.
and purchased their fresh meat from that. The children in the chicken operation were getting strange illnesses. They're relatively young children, and so somebody wound up asking the state to test the dirt at the cattle operation, and that's what precipitated the state shutting it down, because even though these people had operated for 20 years as a very diligent organic operation, their soil was contaminated with PFAS and PFOS. And it turns out unknown to them, when they purchased the property, the previous rancher, had received and worked into the soil sludge from sanitary.
biosolids.
Was this on 2020?
No, this was in that New
I
York
saw it on
Times.
TV. I did see it on TV.
Okay, so,
Very interesting.
well, and once again, this is 20 years ago when there were concerns or awareness of PFAS and PFOS. It was, very limited as far as knowledge. So I guess my question immediately went to, is my understanding that this district, as well as other districts, have been shipping biosolids, call it, but they were referring to it as, because that sounds
Sludge.
something different as sludge.
Sludge doesn't sound nearly as
Yeah, it
attractive.
doesn't, up to a source in Kern County.
Pretty composting.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of at least a couple of companies that have rendered much of the land that was previously wouldn't even support weeds in the vicinity of Wasco is now farmland. So my concern is, from a liability perspective, is downstream for whatever we have been contributing as an agency to that. And I'm sure it's not going to be something that's easy to, but the issue at this point is there's a list of agencies that have been shipping, and what's been done with it up there is, while it's not in our control, dominion or control, my concern when I read that is downstream liability should something blows up, and there's an awful lot of carrots grown in that part of the world. Okay, matter of fact, the largest two carrot operations in the world, and they those materials have a tendency of aggregating in roots, unfortunately, tubers, whatnot. So in any case, that is just, I believe, having read this and obviously becoming more and more aware of it, that the tip of the iceberg is out of the water at this point, with the implications of that. I just want to bring that up from a perspective that I think it's something that we may need to be looking into in a different way. And
Potential future liability.
it's one of those things of who knew. 20 years ago when that New Hampshire, I'm sure they had no idea. So in any case, it is effectively rendered that those two farms, brownfields, they can't do anything. So not only were they out of business, but now they can't really even move there.
Bill, that came back to me. It's a movie I just saw a couple of weeks ago. Netflix, I think, regarding DuPont.
Oh yeah, DuPont and Dow Chemical, they're
So it's a
And
current
3M.
movie.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Really.
Yeah.
It talked about everything you said.
But are we currently required to identify and or remove PFAS and PFOS from our fluent?
We've had some periodic sampling required by our NPDES permit. The water boards is gathering information at this point. There's going to be drinking water standards if some places don't have them already for those polyfluoro compounds. I believe that we'll eventually see limits in the wastewater, the end stream going into the river. We do see it in our biosolids. I'm sure everybody sees it in their biosolids. We're concerned when we were composting at the plant, our ability to land apply compost, which is biosolids, is going to be limited or mixed altogether. And it's also going to impact the places that we haul it to. I'm not sure where the technology is or what the plan is for remediation of these compounds, but it's a big deal, and it's going to have impact.
So far, then, we're required to some extent to identify these compounds in what flows through the treatment plant.
Well,
We're not required at the moment to remove any. Are there any scientifically accepted methods of removing them?
that's a good question. I don't think the technology's there yet. Everybody's in the big race to develop the technology.
What I keep hearing at the CASA conferences is it's a big worry, but nobody's figured out the solution.
The solution is to stop selling the damn stuff.
Well,
Okay, well, if we just pile it next to the river, I guess.
I mean, there's some pilots in technology.
No, I'm talking about PFAS. It comes from chemicals that are being used for plastic enhancers.
chemical. You meant something else.
You meant
I meant the biosolids. What do we do with them?
It,
Yeah.
it worked DDT,
yes,
and
it
it
did.
worked with asbestos in building materials. But it took the government, the federal government, to do an edict. And then there was still a grace period for both of those situations. And then, we all know what happened with the DDT, at least in Southern California, which happened to be one of the places where it was really manufactured in huge quantities. And maybe you don't, but I won't bore anybody with what happened. There are still 55-gallon drums of it, seafloor, in the Santa Barbara Channel. The issue, that concern from my perspective is not that the technology is there to do anything about it, not that the agent or, respective agencies are aware and moving in this sort of direction, collecting data and information. It's that this is the rubric of forever chemicals. And I'm concerned from a legal liability perspective of it coming back for stuff that people will have done, everyone does, without knowing what the implications are. And then the implications become something that is permanent. And then they said, not that you knew, but you should have known somehow.
Right.
And there's liability that winds up being something that everybody wears.
You knew or should have known that this
Well,
was a problem.
But I mean, this example is from 20 years ago when I certainly, and I don't think most of the people, even the CASA folks, were aware of it to the extent that the pervasive, maybe the Dow Chemical and the DuPont folks and 3M did. But it's kind of like other analogy of, the early days of the tobacco industry,
Proprietary chemicals.
all sorts of stuff. Okay, so anyway, so I just, not the cure, not the solution, but just what the implications are from a downstream liability perspective. I think we should be aware of, and perhaps without knowing who material is shipped to, who carries it, who shipped through, and then ultimately what they do with it, because they have been making Kern County green when it wasn't green, in places it wasn't green for decades. And anyway, and
There's
that,
some goodness in that. Frankly.
well, it depends on your relationship with Kern County. So, the extent of what I had to add to that, we have a board member and a general manager comment.
Yeah, just something I'd like to mention to the board. A number of months ago, we had an employee survey done, and our ill-fated survey. I was wondering if there's anything going on with that. I mean, I'm perfectly happy let it kind of die on the vine and let it not do anything with it. What are we gonna do with that?
Don't really know what to do with it until we see it. Our regular board chair, Mr. Stone, I understand, has seen the survey. I don't know, and of course, people who collected the data have seen the survey, but I don't know what's in there, so I don't know how to say, what do we do with it?
So,
I would not want to let it die on the vine, because I think that would be a trail of all the employees' opinions we asked.
There's always something to be learned from any kind of a survey,
As to
especially in a small
What do we
organization.
do? It depends on what we read in the survey results.
It's gonna require us to make a decision on who's gonna read it.
so LCW received all of the surveys and they compiled a summary that they presented at one of the board meetings in closed session to the board. And the board created an ad hoc committee that was supposed to work with LCW to create any sort of after action plan that would be implemented for the district based on what was said. I'd have to look back to see who that committee is, but based on the days of service that have been billed, it does not appear that that committee has ever met. So that may answer some of the questions.
I've not been to it.
I believe the committee was Bill Stone, Ulrich, and Randy. I remember it was gonna be the executive committee.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
So if you've never met, then apparently the committee has never.
Well, no, and there was no indication of a convocation of said ad hoc committee. So at this point, maybe we should do something about that.
LCW was provided the contacts of that ad hoc committee. I believe they reached out. Bill Stone
They
someone
did.
indicated that there was going to be some coordination to start meeting on that. I can reach out to them again and
And
have them reach out.
I believe there's a tentative date in early October.
That you're going to start meeting for them.
Yes.
Okay, then
Yes.
I guess that's your status.
Okay, so if they're meeting, then I can, I need to worry about it.
No.
Good.
Not till the committee comes back, some sort of recommendation to the full board.
Or the committee falls off the edge of the, never.
Off the edge of the earth, yeah.
Which event?
Elections are coming too.
There we have it, yes. So. Okay,
Thank you, gentlemen.
general manager comment?
Yeah, I've got a few comments. I do want to let everyone know that the staff has been super welcoming. I've had an opportunity to tour some of the facilities. And I must say that Israel took me down to the Orchard lift station, and it is the cleanest inside lift station I have ever seen in my life. So it's really spectacular. A couple other updates. Allison and I had a meeting with CalPERS. It was just an informative meeting. There's really no direction for us or back out to the board. On behalf of the district, I attended the Association of Water Agencies meeting at the Reagan Library. That was last week. At that meeting, kind of relevant to the board here, was a representative from Assembly Member Steve Bennett's office. I had an opportunity to meet Alma from Ventura River Water District. The keynote speaker was a fellow named Professor work with each other well. And it's well known frankly, throughout the state that Ventura County, when it comes to water and wastewater agencies tend to work well. Along that same thread, I was approached by a representative who is working on the Ventura River lawsuit. And I would expect that he's going to be reaching out to me or possibly the board on some, what the ideas are or concepts are, I don't know. But there was a meet and greet, and we exchanged conversations and we exchanged contact information.
The district is a landowner in the area, so.
Our boundary is just outside of the reach of the lawsuit, so we're not a party to it.
That did come up in any event. Let's see, some other updates we have. We have some construction. So on Highway 33 in front of Nordhoff High School, the city is going to be doing some restriping in through there. It may affect us because we have manholes that run through there. They're putting in new bike paths. Israel and his crew are working that out and looking at those construction restriping plans. We have the Highway 150 out here in Miramonte. That's going to be in construction here for a few more days. Let me see my notes. And then, yeah, a few more days.
Strides on that, frankly.
Yeah, we have 57 manholes that we're going to be working on, and the manhole adjustments, I believe, starts on the 14th. And it's going to take about 2 or 3 weeks for the manhole adjustments. That work in Caltrans for us will be limited from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon.
We're just supplying the rings and lids, though. Somebody.
Yes, Sam Hill's doing the work. Let's see, last little bit of construction on here is the Burnham Road. So we have the Burnham Road is going to be slip lined. That slip lining is going to start November 4th. And so it's going to be right after our last meeting. Staff will be sending out or has sent out notices letting everybody know. I think that went out September 3rd, and they will be doing door hangers also. But I just want to let the board know that activity is going to happen, and it'll be happening right after that.
Making Burnham into a one-lane alternating direction.
There's that, and I think they're going to have a detour at some point also. So that is in there also. And then we're expecting that to start in November, and it's going to run through mid-December. That completes my GM update.
Right. Anything else? Anyone else?
November and December meeting.
You already did that, you were done.
Okay, in that case,
Oh,
I'm going
Jack.
to adjourn this meeting at 7:13 PM.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
What happened with that?
You're